Hi and welcome to another edition of Ask Lex. So our learning expert in the hot seat today is Jacinta Penn, who is the Principal Instructional Designer and Director of Workbright. Hi Jacinta.
Hi.
And we are having a chat today about the Idea Academy. Now I know this has been a passion project of yours for a while. So can you just explain to our audience what's the Idea Academy and who's it for?
So the Idea Academy has been set up to teach instructional design for e-learning. And it's for beginners to the industry like I was 8 years ago. When I started, I didn't know where to start, and it's so embarrassing to look back now at the kinds of things I was making then. Basically, I was putting PowerPoint online.
And I think we've all been through that stage when
Yeah.
first getting started.
And then, you start to learn and you reading blogs and you're going to conferences and you realise how much more you could do and how much better it could be. And I looked around and there were so few courses on instructional design that related to business. And I think that's the real core. I didn't want to teach how to teach in a university. I wanted to learn how to teach people in a business using tools like Articulate, Storyline and Studio at the time. And so that's always been the goal, and it's been years. I've been talking about this for years. Thank you everyone for your patience.
I noticed actually on LinkedIn the other day when you said you'd finished the course, there was all these people that just said, yay, like, like, let's get in and have a look at it.
I'm sure they thought it was never going to happen.
It's a difficult thing to do though when you're still working yourself and you're having to keep all the contract work going and trying to run your passion project on the side. I think we all, there's quite a few of us out there that know what that's like.
Yes, and that's the thing, because it was my passion, I wasn't really prepared to compromise on it, and I've gotten some amazing people to help over the years. I've had people consult, Anna Kingston and Michelle Childs, and then I needed to create a course that felt like something I would have wanted when I was there, and I needed to be practical. I needed to know what to actually do rather than just the theories behind it. And that's what led to the course being the way it is.
Right.
So it's on Moodle Cloud, and basically we take our learners through a case study of someone just like them who's gone into a new job, never worked in that kind of industry before, has to teach on a subject she has no idea about, and needs to do all those things a good instructional designer will do to make sure that the learning's effective.
Okay. And so we talked briefly about who it was for. So do you need to have instructional design kind of background and experience to do this? Is this good for, face-to-face ideas to get into e-learning, or just complete greenhorns? Like
Well, there are so many people who get into a role and they come into it from HR or from being a face-to-face trainer, and they start doing e-learning, and they don't have that instructional design background to fall back on. And it's really for those people or for teachers that want to make the switch over to e-learning and need to understand how instructional design works for adults and how it works for e-learning. And I think that's the big thing, is there's a really big difference to how you teach in a room as to how you put it on a screen when there's no instructor around to help. It's really for people who've been put into the position of creating e-learning or want to create e-learning that really makes a difference, because we hear it over and over at conferences about how we have to measure our results, how we have to have an objective that is going to make a change for the business, change behaviour, achieve productivity. There's a reason people want the training, and we actually have to find out what that is. And sometimes it's not the obvious one, and we have to become the detective and find out, okay, why is this a problem? Have people been trained on this? Do they actually already know the policy and they just don't want to apply it? And why is that? So there are a lot of questions we have to ask, and it's really hard when you're a beginner. You tend to just do what the client asks you to do.
I think not even necessarily when you're a beginner. I think there are some seasoned professionals I know out there that are still got their order taker hats on, and we do. I think that's a really big part of what we do, is being able to help the client find that solution. And sometimes it's not a learning problem. Sometimes it's not something that we can help solve. So understanding how to ask those questions and dig into that requirement is a really important part of what we do, I think.
And I have to say it was really helpful when I was in the NZATD, and we were all discussing the competencies that we felt learning and development professionals needed to have. We looked at a lot of these kinds of things. So we looked at the learning needs assessment and talked about that, and we looked at the course analysis and looked at that quite separately. And so when I was designing my course, I was using my experience, all the stuff we talked about for the competencies, and all the stuff I'd done in the tertiary course that I did end up doing. and I put all that together. And so I really wanted to make it practical. And I think that's the other thing. You mentioned that some seasoned instructional designers still aren't sure how to go about doing this kind of thing. It's because no one really shows us. So we go to these conferences, we hear about what they did for the end result, but we don't hear about what they asked in the meeting or the steps that they went through to choose the design that they made. Sometimes we do, and that's great, and it's so helpful. But I really wanted to work through that with people and show them a case study and see how it works, and then talk to them about the theory that underlies that. Why do we do it that way? Why do we ask those questions? Why is this important? When we design it, why do we need to do it this way? And then I wanted them to apply it. And then I wanted them to talk about why they applied it. So that's why it took me this long, because I wanted to create e-learning about this subject that was all good instructional design. So I had to have them see an example of it, feel how important it was, learn the theory, apply it, reflect on it. And it's taken me a while, but I'm so pleased with it now. It
does look great. And I think the thing that I liked about it as well is it's just some of the other courses that are out there are done using one specific tool or one specific ID theory. And I love, the way that you've put that together is you're going to, at each stage, you've said, okay, here are all these different theories, here are all these different tools, but this is how or why you would apply each one in different scenarios.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that's been missing out of, a lot of what's out there. And so I suppose sometimes it just depends on who's running the course as to what their agenda is as to why they've done it the way they've done it. And I tried to do something similar some years ago with a colleague of mine, and I know how difficult it is because you could just keep going forever and ever.
I have had to stop. I've had to stop and say, you know what, this is good enough. I can keep improving this, and I will keep improving it. But there's real value in this now, and I want to get it out there. I was thinking I could build parts of this in storyline, and I thought the amount of time it would take me to do that, I don't need to wait for that. I can show them my other storyline examples. And that's the other thing, is we are actually showing examples of modules and things like that. We focus a little bit on the rapid authoring tools because we know that those are the most common things that people use and how to apply them. But we also talk about blended learning, job aids, performance support, VR, AR, 360 video, apps, and animations, things like that. And they all have their place, and it's important to think about, where is that place? When should I use this? And a newbie doesn't know that. Someone new to the industry will always go with the tool they're most familiar with.
Yes. Stay in the comfort zone. And I think something that we've touched on in another conversation is around, as instructional designers, we have had to start wearing many, many hats over the years as technology has evolved. And new things come about, and new ideas about how we can do things come about. And there's a real pressure on our profession, I suppose, to know everything and to be that jack of all trades. I mean, I always say a jack of all trades is a master of none. You need to find your thing and then specialise in that thing. But you need to understand what tools are available out there. And when I say tools, I don't necessarily mean a specific piece of software, but it's like, what things have we got in our toolkit that could make this particular solution the best solution for the job, and to do what it needs to do, to do what it says on the tin. And I think it's really important to understand that you need to have an awareness of all of these things. And this is where your course is really great, because it does give that full picture. Like you say, it covers everything from sort of storyline to VR and AR and all those things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you guys have to know those things inside out and be able to code them or do whatever we need to do. But as designers, we need to be able to have that vision.
Understand when they are a good solution to the problem that you have.
Yes.
Some people say it's a, it's a really great tool, but it's like, they talk about VR quite often as a problem looking for a solution, or a solution looking for a problem, sorry. And the thing is, though, that you have to understand what VR can do, what storyline is good for, or why you might do an app or videos, so that when it comes up, when that problem comes up, you think, actually, I do know a good solution for this.
And you can always then find somebody who can fill that gap. There's plenty of people out with skill sets. That's what the network is for.
Yes.
And there's always somebody that can help with that. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues with e-learning getting a bad rap in our world, is that, we've tried to use, when I say we, I don't know that I would put myself in that category, but I think that quite often people will use, like, maybe the company has bought a tool and therefore they're going to use it for everything that they do. Round pegs and square holes, it really doesn't work. So I think, that's our job, is to be able to bring nice rich learning experiences to people, and things that are actually going to do what they need to do to fix the business problem. So,
and sometimes to compromise, because there are times when I've said no to a customer because they want software training that and they wanted an e-learning. And for me, if you want to know how to use a software, that needs to be a video that you can access anytime, but they need to be able to track it. They need to be able to track it on their LMS. So a compromise for that is doing short task-based videos or storyline screencasts and putting them on the LMS. So it's still task-based. It still can be looked up, but they can also check that you've done it.
Okay. I think if anybody's interested in finding out more about Idea Academy, so I've known Jacinta for a few years now, and I know this has been a passion project of hers from when we first met. So I'm really excited that the course is out there. I think it's important for people to understand as well, you want this to be a collaborative course. So for people, as they're going through that, to be able to provide you with feedback on what could work better, because you want it to be something that people can use and take back to their work and apply. So I think that's an important point, as well as it's not just here's the material and get on with it. It's something that's living and breathing, and something that you're going to be contributing to and evolving as time goes on.
Absolutely. Iterative improvements is the only way to go.
So if anybody's interested in finding out a bit more about the course, there's a link below the video wherever you're watching this. And I'll also put a link, Jacinta, to your LinkedIn profile, if that's okay,
right.
and the company website if anybody wants to get in touch with you and have more of a chat, because I'm sure this will kind of get lots of cogs whirring. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to chat to us today, Jacinta, and I really hope all of you out there get lots out of the course that she's put together. It's fab.
Thank you.
Okay.